Okay.
Hey everybody, welcome back. This is part 2 of the INFP conversation with Rob Kasha. This is so much fun. We're going to have a link. We're going to have a survey for you at the end of this. We're going to ask you to share this video. But if you are, or anyone that you know, or any of your children are an INFP, Rob is a responsible human. I am a responsible human. We are both INFPs, and we're about to go there because we're having this conversation about both of us are firstborn sons. Both of us had amazing fathers who are self-employed. And if you're self-employed and if you're going to have food on the table, even if you do believe in a higher power, even if you do believe in the Bible, even if you're claiming the promises of God in a traditional way, as both of us personally believe in, you're going to work really, really hard. You have to, it's like being a self-employed farmer. They got to work really, really hard. Whether you're praying for the rain or not praying for the rain, you're working really, really hard. So Q, this has been a juicier and juicier and more soul affirming conversation for me and possibly for Rob too. I cut him off again. I said, be quiet, Rob. I'm hitting the record button and we're going to lead you into this. So the issue is we have an agreement, both of us. We can get into the zone. We can get into our daily morning ritual or our devotion or breakfast or whatever. We can do that maybe 2 days, maybe 3 days. And then it's like we can't continue with that. We have to get out of the box. We have to go on a drive. We have to do something to expand our brain. And it sounds so unjustifiable. It sounds lazy. It sounds wrong. It sounds exorbitant. And yet, other people through history, you've already mentioned everybody's favorite 2 children's story writers, Tolkien and Lewis. We got the Narnia series. We've got the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit series. And they did great things. Nobody's beaten on them for being lazy or whatever, because that's the only way that you bring forth that level, that stream of creativity. So over to you, Rob.
I think where we're going with it was, everyone's personality type is wonderful. It's awesome, and I can really appreciate. I love working with other personality types that are aware of themselves. Like, I don't know what for some Myers-Briggs is great, and for some other they use something else, and it's all good. But I love when people are aware of the personality type, and so they can they're not just trying to stumble around. They're aware of that and they can work well with others. I'm always looking at somebody else to know how to best communicate with them, how to best hear them, to listen to them, what they're really saying. And so the issue was, really being not just comfortable, but excited about how God has made you. If we are INFPs, I live near the ocean now and I love it. I go out there to the coast and on a day when no one's there, and I can just talk to God and I can write and do that, and it's like that seems like the most namby-pamby thing, whatever, but I need it, and I need to reset my brain that way. Even the drive out there is important. For somebody else, they need a repetitive task, and they feel fantastic when they're done. They moved this amount of equipment and they did this, and that is how they feel fulfilled because that's how they think and that's how they process. The thing is about being the best version of that possible, because you and I know INFPs who aren't the best version of themselves get really inward and depressed and kind of collapse in, and we absorb every judgment and everyone that's not even there. We think about what other people might think about us and all the expectations, and we just circle until we spiral into a black hole.
Rob, when you're talking about that, you don't want to be too sensitive. I certainly don't want to be too sensitive. So I've kind of go out in life and I've found a way of attracting some of the most difficult bosses, the most difficult teachers, just to prove that I can do it. And both of us are firstborn sons as well with entrepreneurial parents. So we've kind of been conditioned that way. And yet, in the midst of doing that, it's almost like, at least speaking for myself, I'm trying to prove that I can take it. And yet in the middle of that, as you're describing, I turn inward on myself if I'm not careful, if I'm not doing, practicing some of the inner healing techniques that I know and really doing what you're really fulfilling for me right now, which is exemplifying someone that's going upward and bringing God into every challenge, every hurtful situation. If I'm not doing that, I'm doing exactly what you're describing and collapsing in on myself, and everybody else is like, why are you so sensitive?
That's exactly right. And there's every personality type would have their own version of that, their own kind of collapse, their own kind of negativity. And so it's been a journey for me. I really appreciate learning more about that, and not just my own, but other people's. So, because you want to become the very best that God sees you as. And you're right, we overcompensate, or we'll try and prove something, and that happens the opposite way too. People say, well, I'm a good listener. And, well, no, you're a great doer. So let's focus on that, and we'll work on listening as well in the context, because we can only pretend to be something else so long. And God doesn't want us to do that. One of the greatest examples in my own life has been about fasting, which I know is weird and seems like it's not connected. But I've done a couple of long fasts, and done a couple of 40 days, and there was it was part of it was wonderful, and part of it was like you're trying to perform, you're trying to get him to pay attention, you're trying to do this. And I've done all the other ones too. I've done 14s and 10s and 7s and 3s and whatever and everything else. And I realized after many years of that as good as that may be, there's an element in my own heart of I'm doing this to get attention. I'm doing this to get approval. I'm doing this to get something. And he's been teaching me for years now about a different way, where I'm partnering with him. I'm listening to him, and it works with my INFP personality, where there are times where I feel in my heart to fast for a couple of days or whatever. But most of the time, I'm just eating with him. And it's this awareness of what he's saying into my personality, into my heart. He's saying, "Hey, can I have the rest of that?" And I know he's not going to physically eat it, but it's just this awareness of like, you know what, that's yours. And it's this partnering with him and how I think and feel and live, so that I'm not just like eating to get satisfied, because I've done that too. Eating to feel better, that I know he's with me in all things. And therefore, when I do that, I can talk to people with him, and I can, so that I'm not stressed about needing to take a drive out to the coast. I'm doing that with him. I know he's with me in doing this, and I'm not running away from anything, and I'm not failing at this, or I'm just going with him in this, so that when there are times when there are our favorite things that INFPs to do, like we've got to buckle down and do this. Like I appreciated growing up in a restaurant business very, very much, very, very much. And oh my goodness, my dad, my mom, what they imparted to us, including the ability to cook. And my wife Angie and I did a small catering job last week, just to bless somebody. It wasn't for a business thing. And the body was not happy about it, and it's work, and you got, no matter how many people for it, it's tough, man. But he was with me, and Angie and I had a blast doing it, because it was different, because I knew he was with me, and it was okay if this wasn't perfect. It was good. It was great. It wasn't, it may not be this or this or this, or comparing it to this. That's one of the biggest and most wonderful things about going with him on this journey, is I don't have to compare myself to anybody else anymore.
Powerful stuff. I think we covered all kinds of different eclectic topics on this one. But you know what? You're an INFP. You've already come down the rabbit hole with us. And we're going to be marking this video as like INFPs only.
Yep.
And again, regardless of your spiritual beliefs or whatever, this is completely inclusive. So you don't have to believe the same way. We just want to bless you with just a window into Rob's world and my world, and some of our struggles and some of our similarities here as we're discovering it literally firsthand. So we don't want you to forget to do this. Let Rob know what you're dealing with right now. We're going to have a link in the comments somewhere. I'll have a link somewhere. Go there, share it with anybody if you're going through or know anybody going through a major health shock or struggle or treatment, or relational issues or family issues, or any of these things, spiritual issues, significance issues, crisis issues, personal issues, any of that stuff. We want to find kind of where the big areas are that Rob is really uniquely gifted, and where the needs are right now. So if you'll do that, if you'll spread this video just INFPs only, and we'll see you on the next one.